Hey guys, I'm Urizi. This story is all about what if Naruto is the reincarnation of Hashirama and can remember his past life. The Yondaime Hokage unknowingly makes a change during the sealing, the consequences of which are unimaginable for both Naruto and Konoha. What do these consequences mean for Naruto? Before we proceed with the story, please like and subscribe to this channel if you liked the video, and don't forget to check the description for the other works of the author if you liked the story. Let's start. Chapter 8. Kage. Naruto said sadly, watching his mother face away from him. He could feel her turbulent emotions, anger, and overwhelming fear. Mito was also looking at his mother solemnly. Kushina seemed to be releasing the shock and horror she had suppressed when Naruto had taken on an army of strong shinobi single-handedly. She turned to him. Naruto, do you have any idea what I have gone through to keep you safe? You told me you were a father once. Just try to put yourself in my current situation. How could you scare me like that, taking on an entire elite army alone? You know what it feels like for a parent to see their child facing what they think is an imminent death. Naruto moved to her and engulfed her in a hug, a poignant expression on his face. The loss of Hiruzen, the misery of his mother who had thought she would see him die, and his wholesale slaughter of the IWA shinobi were weighing upon his soul. He was never this quick to anger as Senju Hashirama. His twin lives were merging slowly, creating someone entirely new. He had to be wary of himself. There was no doubt that his actions today were necessary, but there was also no doubt that he had let his emotions overcome him. He had thought he was long past that, but it seemed he still had issues in that regard. He had very few people whom he saw as family in this life, and losing one of them had made him let his power loose. He had to be calmer. Kage, I understand, and I am so sorry. I had just lost my student Hiruzen, who was also the one man who was truly there for me during my darkest years. I am sorry. You may be the great Shodai Hokage reborn, Naruto, but I still see you as the adorable little boy who cried for his stuffed fox at night. Please do not do such things ever again without me. I have only you left whom I can call my own, my blood, my son. I will die if I lose you, Kushina said into his shoulder in a small voice, her pain and anguish apparent. Naruto's blood ran cold at the thought of his mother dying. I promise. He could feel the intensity of his mother's emotions receding somewhat. Don't forget me, Kushina-chan. I will be there with my husband as a part of our family. We are the last of the Uzumaki. Kushina looked at Mito, as the three of them sat together on the sofa. Naruto gathered Mito in his arms, the great Kunoichi cuddling into her husband. Mito-sama, how are you so young again? If not for my familiarity with your chakra, I could never have recognized you. I never knew you to be so beautiful. Mito blushed faintly, and Naruto got stars in his eyes looking once more at his stunning wife. Even Madara had acknowledged her beauty, and his old friend had developed a large hatred for anything to do with the Senju by then. Thank you, Kushina-chan. As for your question, I think Orochimaru has understood the Edo Tensei in an unusual way, and used it to bring me back in my 17-year-old body. I was extremely strong as I am now, almost reaching my prime. My physical energy and chakra used to be and currently is almost as much as Hashirama has now. Kushina laughed sadly. I suppose we owe Orochimaru for this, don't we? He brought you back to us, back to my son. Naruto needs someone from his past to help him reconcile completely and support him like a lover. We should be grateful to Kami. Naruto nodded. Extreme sadness coursed through his mind as he remembered the Sandaime from both his lives. True, Kage. We will need to attend Hiruzen's funeral tomorrow, though. Then we will have to answer to the village council. They will want to put me under their thumb after seeing Mokuton once more. Mito looked annoyed. No, they won't. Have you forgotten the relationship Uzumaki have with Konoha? You are now an Uzumaki. Unless you take your father's name, which Kushina tells me is highly regarded in Konoha, the council will have little hold on you, she said. So you will head the Uzumaki clan then, Mito-sama? Kushina asked curiously. Yes. I am the eldest Uzumaki alive after all, and Konoha will serve as an excellent rallying point for the new Uzumaki clan. The village owes us. What is owed will be repaid in full, Mito-chan. I will ensure that, Naruto assured her. Mito just laid her head on his shoulder and Kushina stood up tiredly. I am going to sleep, Naruto. It has been a long day, we will have an even longer one tomorrow. Good night, Mito-sama, Naruto. Good night, Ka-san, said Naruto. A night's sleep would lessen his piercing grief and allow him to come to terms slowly with the old man's death and his own actions. Rain began to fall, and it seemed Konoha itself was weeping for its lost Hokage. Sasuke walked up to the Sandaime and placed a single white flower in front of his framed portrait. He was the last. Konoha's entire shinobi force had turned up to attend Sarutobi Hiruzen's funeral. The Hokage had evidently fought the Orochimaru, nearly defeating him. They had said that Orochimaru was now gravely injured and had gone back to recuperate from his incapacitation. He watched as Naruto stood alongside Kushina-san, and some pretty red-haired woman whom he seemed to have picked up somewhere. They were holding hands. Sasuke felt rather out of character, wanting to tease his friend mercilessly. But he saw the sadness on Naruto's face and concluded that he would have a tree shoved through him if he did that. His mission had ended in failure. He had successfully incapacitated Gaara's teammates, but Jounin from Suna had soon appeared to extract them from Konoha. It seemed as if Temari and Kankura held some rank in the hierarchy of Suna. He and the other rookies had gathered to prepare for the siege, and they had seen what Naruto had done. He had single-handedly destroyed the invading force and only looked moderately tired after doing it. After forcing the Tsukuyomi to flee the power he had exhibited, the village bowed to Naruto with reverence and looked upon him as if he was their deliverance. Where he walked, the villagers seemed to straighten and their faces would change to one of blazing determination and pride. It was as if Naruto had ignited a flame in the village that refused to be extinguished. As he fought Konoha's enemies, its shinobi had changed. His weariness after the battle had seemed only mental and emotional, rather than physical. It just amazed Sasuke to think how Naruto could contain that much power. Power to wipe out armies. He had to step up his training if he were to ever catch up with Naruto. He had been slacking off, even if he progressed well with the Shunshin. He had to speak to Naruto, get him to help with his training. He watched as Umbu appeared in front of Naruto, Kushina-san, and the pretty woman, and they all disappeared in a Shunshin. Oh, well. He would talk to him later. Konoha's council room. Naruto faced the council of Konoha, congregated fully. On the left side sat the shinobi consisting of the clan heads. Inuzuka, Hyuga, Nara, Akimichi, to name a few. He could see Homura, Koharu, and Danzo staring at Mito with amazement and at him with apprehension. Hiruzen's seat was empty and it brought him a deep pang of sadness. He had been told by the Umbu witness of Hiruzen's actions. He felt proud of the Hokage, proud at his sacrifice and sad at its necessity. To beat Tobirama and Orochimaru at his age. He would honor Hiruzen's sacrifice. Let us start this council with the most pressing matter at this moment. Uzumaki Naruto, step forward, said Homura in an authoritative voice. Naruto just sighed and went up to stand in front of the council. We have many matters to attend to after yesterday's invasion, and we cannot waste time. Thus we will go directly to the issue. Naruto-san, you destroyed those barbaric Iwa shinobi with the sacred bloodline. Mokuton, here Homura and Koharu stared at him with something akin to respect. Danzo just stared at him blankly. You have the utmost gratitude of your fellow shinobi and Konoha as a whole for defending us in our time of need. After your actions at the field of battle, the Council of Konoha has seen fit to appoint you to the rank of Jounin. This matter is not open for discussion, stated Homura firmly. The shinobi in the room were giving Naruto looks of respect and awe, inclining their heads in his direction. Some bowed. The clan heads were giving sour glances to the civilian side at this statement. What had happened to the smooth working of this village? Did it really always need me to prosper, thought Naruto with frustration. Was it only his strength that had held his shinobi together? He had for the longest time thought it was something else, he had thought it was his ideals. Seeing Homura's maneuvering, feeling all their deplorable emotions in the air made him sick. He wanted out. The civilian council were quite predictably shouting their objections. Morons. Silence. The civilians have no say in the workings of the shinobi hierarchy. It was only the Shodae's kindness that allowed nuisances like you in this room in the first place, came Hyuga Hayashi's cutting voice. The civilian council members just froze, unable to bear the killing intent. Naruto agreed wholeheartedly. His kindness to the civilian population as Hashirama had come back to annoy him. Indeed. We have received reports from our Umbu eyewitnesses that Mito-sama was resurrected by Orochimaru. Mito stepped forward. Indeed I was. Orochimaru resurrected me in this form, and I was able to break free of his bindings and return to a human body. I am Uzumaki Mito. The council seemed stunned, only the three elders even seeing the Mito they had known in the beautiful woman in front of them. This is indeed Mito-sama, her chakra still burns bright, said Koharu. Her reputation as a censor was once widely known throughout the nations. The civilians were open-mouthed with their surprise. They kept on whispering, unable to keep up with the astronomical changes introduced to Konoha after the battle. We are glad to see you alive and young once more, Mito-sama. So glad, said Homura in what really appeared to be happiness, while the clan heads bowed in respect to the Kunoichi. Koharu too looked elated, but Naruto was intrigued with Danzo. He extended his sense towards the bandaged shinobi, and almost cried out in surprise. Danzo's emotions felt regretful and cold at the same time, but that was not the point. He could feel chakras in Danzo that should not coexist. A trace of his own chakra, and the chakra of multiple Sharingan. What had Danzo been doing? How far had he fallen, to have multiple Sharingan implanted upon his arm, and send Hashirama's cells into his body? Something was very wrong with the village. If the council that he had appointed so long ago was so deeply corrupt, it was a wonder that Konoha was still standing. Already he could feel a change in the village. The warmth and loyalty that used to dominate the village during his reign were gone, leaving only essential kindness and a certain loyalty towards the organization. These three were the organization. They had made themselves centers of power in Konoha, despite his teachings that the Hokage and the councils only lived to serve the shinobi, and were the first among equals. He had to play this carefully. He wresting control of the village from the council would not go well, it would only plant the seeds for chaos. As much as he hated what the village had become, he had to play by the rules. Rules he himself had created. It was the better choice. Danzo could wait. Anyway, he was broken from his pondering as Mito spoke. It is good to be back. Hashirama would want me to keep his legacy safe and shining. Naruto grinned. So I will be the head of the Uzumaki clan in Konoha from here on. It is my right as the oldest surviving Uzumaki in the village. My clan will no longer be unrepresented. The three elders nodded, as did the rest of the council. It was only right. Koharu took the floor. We are glad that this matter is settled. We would like to accord Uzumaki Naruto a great honor and induct him into the council guard, the elite shinobi that is under our direct command. It often requires years of skill and experience to gain membership. What do you say, Naruto-san? They believe me a kid. A powerful one, but a kid nonetheless. What a bad play to have my strength. It is not my choice, Koharu-san. I must consult my clan head. What say you, Mito-san, should I enter the Great Council Guard? He asked. My clansmen shall be affiliated to Konoha and Uzumaki alone. No other affiliations, as there are precious few of us to spare. This is my final decision. Mito said firmly. The elders looked rather sour. But the clan heads seemed rather happy. Naruto had avoided the clutches of the elders for now, and they could somehow ally themselves with him. The entire council were now staring at Naruto like a hungry pack of wolves. They care so much about my power, forgetting so easily that we were invaded on two fronts. I had to win the battle, and Hiruzen defeated Orochimaru. Konoha needs to change. Mito now stood tall, her and Kushina flanking a depressed Naruto on both sides. Any and all offers to the Uzumaki clan, from marriage to alliances, should be made through me. Any Kunoichi forcing themselves upon Uzumaki Naruto for any reason whatsoever, shall be dealt with by me personally, she said with an ice-cold voice. Jealous are you, Mito-chan? Do you actually believe I would even look at any other woman when I have you at my side? The council side is one. With Naruto under the protection of Mito herself as clan head, their power plays for him were futile. For now, at least. The three elders looked a bit angry, but the session was resumed by Homura once more. We have lost our Hokage Hiruzen to Orochimaru's attack. Uzumaki Naruto's show of strength will incite the alarm of all the villages in the land. We need a new Hokage to guide us during these turbulent times. I nominate Jiraiya, said Homura. Jiraiya appeared out of nowhere, startling the council. Don't do that, Jiraiya-sensei. Kushina scolded him. Jiraiya waved it off, staring at the council. That job is not for me. I have another job, and it cannot have me sitting stationary here in Konoha. You were the candidate endorsed by Hiruzen, there is no one else suitable. There is one, actually. I am not the only remaining Sunin, barring Orochimaru. Tsunade? Thought Naruto. That child had gone off the grid, supposedly drowning in her own miseries. Her become the Hokage, when she had enough ghosts of her own to deal with. What was Ero Sennin thinking? He would love to see the little girl once more, though. Jiraiya gave him a glance, as if he knew what was on his mind and signaled him to wait. You speak of Tsunade-sama. She cannot be found at we need a leader fast. A civilian tried to butt in, how about Kushina-sama? She has strong ties with the Hokage of Konoha and is strong enough. Kushina snorted. No way. I will not be Hokage as I have many personal commitments. The council seemed annoyed by this. Personal commitments? You would forsake Konoha for such a thing? Questioned Hayashi. Kushina looked at Naruto, who nodded minutely. They would know sooner or later. I have to be there for my husband's legacy, my son, Uzumaki Naruto. I will not give up my son for anything. So rule me out. Your son? He is the son of Yondaime. What is going on here? Questioned Chauza in amazement. They seemed stunned, though the elders seemed resigned. Kushina sighed, as did Mito and Naruto. This would be a long sitting. Orochimaru screamed in pain as Kabuto dressed his arms in a salve and bandages. Damn old geezer, he hoped the Sandaime would suffer for an eternity within the death god. He could not use techniques anymore, curse that old man. My plan, all in ruins thanks to that annoying Kyuubigen hierarchy and the old man, my cursed seal on Sasuke will be removed eventually by Mito. I am back to square one, how dare he, yelled Orochimaru in anger. Orochimaru-sama, you were facing strong opponents. The shinobi no kami, Sarutobi Hiruzen was no mere ninja. The rumors about Naruto-kun portray him as someone to be feared as much as or more than the Yondaime. Orochimaru snarled. Do not patronize me, Kabuto. I failed at getting the Sharingan twice and I have no chance whatsoever of getting the Mokuton. Itachi and Naruto-kun are both too strong for me. We need to get Sasuke-kun, and soon. But Orochimaru-sama, we would have no chance against the ones who are in Konoha right now. I know that, I know, which is why, after I get my arms healed, we will be rejoining a certain organization. They can be of use to me once more. Kabuto's eyes widened. Do you agree to these terms, Adano? Questioned the Godaime Mizukage, Terumi Mei. She was an extremely beautiful woman with a stunningly proportioned body, not to mention her reputation as a kunoichi. She was to be feared as a Kage, defeating the Sanbaijin hierarchy and a Kage to boot in combat was no mean feat. Considered the woman in front of him and considered her treaty. It would absolve Kyumo from harm for quite some time, allowing him to accelerate his own plans. Two shinobi appeared in the room abruptly, bending down to whisper a message in the ears of each Kage. The two leaders listened for quite some time, their eyebrows climbing higher and higher, and their jaws dropping. I looked at Mei. I wager we heard essentially the same news. To think that Oniki himself and his personal army were defeated by that boy. Mei looked intrigued. He is a very strong shinobi, Uzumaki Naruto. To think he possesses the Mokuton and on such a scale. I nodded with wonder. The message had startled him a lot. Yujito had been right. Her prompt message had allowed him to be prepared for this eventuality. It seemed that Naruto was becoming strong with the Mokuton. Too strong. The balance of power in the nations would be shifting with this. He was already being called the god of shinobi, inheriting the title from Hiruzen. He had earned it on the field of battle, defeating Kage and his army simultaneously. He owed Yujito. To have that power directed against his village would be disastrous. Mei, though, was secretly happy. So that is your son, Kushina-san. It seems that the Namikaze family is the true strength of Konoha. I need to meet your Naruto, as fast as possible. Both Kage resumed their discussion, plans whirling in their minds after hearing the new developments. Did you speak to Madatabi, Kurama? Asked Naruto as he walked to the edge of the village with Sasuke, Jiraiya, and his family accompanying him. The council had accepted him being Namikaze Minato's son after a great deal of shouting. But he had refused his father's name formally for now, as he needed the political protection of the Uzumaki clan. Many shinobi already considered him Namikaze Naruto, and had taken to calling him that. News of his heritage had spread among Konoha's shinobi, and they already accepted him as Minato's son. I did, Hashirama. She told me that Jinhiriki and Kyumo are treated reasonably, except that their training is a little tough. Her Jinhiriki was trained in very harsh conditions, and one more thing, the Hakusabi, Gyuki, is there with his Jinhiriki. He is rather strong, if a bit boring. Naruto thought about it. The Nyobai Jinhiriki had claimed Gaara as her capture, taking him to Kyumo. The treaty with Hiruzen had allowed it, unfortunately. From what he heard from Kurama, the Ichibai Jinhiriki would surely have a better life in Kyumo. He wondered what was happening in Suna. Their lack of a leader had to have created a vacuum in power. Mito put up the silence seals. Be careful, Sasuke-kun, Naruto. Tsunade is really short-tempered, Kushina said to her son and godson. Now, don't worry Kushina. I will be there with them. Mito and Kushina looked skeptical. Somehow that does not reassure me, Jiraiya-sensei, said Kushina. Mito got a dangerous look in her eye. If you turn my husband into a pervert, Jiraiya-kun, there will be hell to pay. Naruto and Sasuke looked on, amused, as Jiraiya backpedaled fast from the two kunoichi, waving his hands frantically. No, I would never. The two looked satisfied. Sasuke proceeded onward, stepping out of the silence barrier's range. Convenient. Mito-chan, don't worry about me. Tsunade is acting like a child, I'll get her back, don't worry. You know how I can convince her to do anything, she idolizes me, said Naruto happily. You spoil her too much, Hashirama. You will tell her, then? Asked Mito. Kushina and Jiraiya were paying attention. Yes. She deserves to know she has family left in this world still. I won't tell her right away, though. Kushina and Mito nodded. Be careful, Naruto, you will be targeted by multiple shinobi after you showed your prowess at the battle. I know who you are, but still. Don't worry, Ka-san. They'll be toast. Declared Naruto. Mito embraced him. Hashirama, listen to your mother. There will always be someone strong enough to challenge you. Come back soon, with Tsunade. Naruto kissed her softly on the cheek. Of course. Bye, Ka-san. Mito-chan. Come on, Ero-sen, and let us get to Sasuke before he gets too far away. Jiraiya and Naruto ran after Sasuke, the two Uzumaki women watching them. In a cave far from Konoha, upon the fingers of a massive statue with multiple eyes, stood projections of 9 shinobi. All of them wearing black cloaks with red clouds. Why are we gathered again so soon? I have bounties to collect, said the deep voice of a man with a mask on him. A silver-haired man with a large scythe laughed madly. Leader-sama, this job with Akatsuki is sacred. The number of people I have sacrificed to Jashin-sama, it is Jashin-sama's grace that I have such a purpose. The man in the center spoke at last, and his eyes were strange. They were a dull purple in color, with a ripple-like pattern spreading over the eyeballs. Quiet, Haiden. We have extremely important news that affects our plans. Tell them, Zetsu. A plant-like being with half black and half white skin divided vertically spoke. It appears that Orochimaru attempted an invasion of Konoha during the Chunin exams. He was able to kill the Yondaime Hokage and was invaded the village with Oto and Suna, said the white half of Zetsu, but was interrupted by Black Zetsu. But it appears as if the village knew of his plans and defended itself well. But Orochimaru used Edo Tensei to bring back Uzumaki Mito at full strength. He underestimated her. Sharingan's eyes widened, and the other shinobi began to curse softly. I can deal with Uzumaki Mito if necessary. But we will avoid confrontation with her till absolutely needed. Proceed, Zetsu, ordered the leader. But that is the least of our worries. The Ichibaijin hierarchy then went haywire, but the Nyabaijin hierarchy stopped him. They fought in their tailed beast forms. A grotesquely hunched form with a face mask asked, "Did that not destroy the village?" Orochimaru won, it seems. No, Sasori. Uzumaki Naruto contained both Baijuya, with a prison of Mokuton. Their reactions were instantaneous. Impossible. To confine the Baijuya, it is the Yondaime Hokage's strength. Mokuton, of all things. Jashin-sama. He will be your sacrifice. What? Silence, ordered Pain. Listen first. Continue, Zetsu. That is not the whole story. He then left the third to deal with the snake and then accompanied Mito to an unknown location. After which IWA attacked in force, about 2,000 of their strongest, under Onaki's command. Eyes widened everywhere. Oh yeah, I bet the old man got them right, his dust release is true art. An explosive masterpiece. A blonde and tall young man shouted. I'm sure it is, Deidara, the Kyuabijin hierarchy confronted them and Zetsu proceeded to describe in detail what the battle had entailed. There was absolute silence when he finished. Only Onaki and his family had left alive. And then, Itachi, the Kyuabi is your job, yours and Kisame's too bad you can't capture him, he is too strong for you. We know he's stronger than you, don't we Kisame? Laughed Deidara. Kisame snarled at Deidara. The techniques he used are Hashirama's own techniques and it seems like he possesses the might and skill of the Yondaime himself in battle. This will make his capture difficult, Pain. Itachi said. I know of Hashirama's strength, and that boy has it. He created several square miles of forest with little effort, and he looked only minimally tired after the battle. He is extremely strong, and is growing stronger steadily. At this rate he will reach Hashirama's strength in a few years, said Black Zetsu. Pain spoke. He cannot be allowed to grow stronger. Currently, I believe none of you with the exception of me or Itachi can face him in battle and live. If he grows any more powerful he will be a major hindrance to our plan. Pain surveyed the members of Akatsuki, his Rinnegan fixing upon Itachi's Sharingan. We must act now to secure the plan's execution. Listen to your orders. Kakashi strolled down the road, accompanied by his longtime friends and colleagues Asuma and Kurenai. Kakashi, have you visited the new forest? Kakashi shook his head. No, not really. Is that where you are going? He looked at Asuma, observing his body language. Knew you had it in you, Asuma. He said lazily. Asuma looked at him with a light blush, with Kurenai staring quizzically at the two of them. Ohio, Kakashi-sensei. Kakashi turned and spotted Sakura waving at him, carrying what appeared to be a basket of ahage. Ohio, Sakura. Searching for your teammates, huh? Yes, do you know where either one of them are Kakashi-sensei? I searched their apartment but there was no one, I just wanted to spend some time with Sasuke-kun and Naruto, the invasion seems to have affected them both. Kakashi wondered, along with Asuma and Kurenai. Of course, Naruto would have had a hard time dealing with his actions. Even if he is the Yondaime, there is a part of him that is as innocent as a pure child. He must be tortured by his part in the battle, but he hides it well, or deals well with it. I think they are on a mission with Jiraiya-sama, aren't they Kakashi? Kakashi nodded. Sakura sighed, oh. I see. I wanted to speak to them both. Something seemed to be running through her mind with the speed of Namikaze Minato. Kakashi-sensei, will you train me? I have no wish to be left behind by them. Kakashi nodded again. Suddenly he saw something that put him on edge. Two men wearing black cloaks with red clouds, mixing into the crowd. Dangerous, they are Akatsuki. Jiraiya-sama, your fears were true. I need to follow them. He made imperceptible signs to Asuma and Kurenai, who nodded. They shot off fast. The two Akatsuki stopped in front of what the villagers had begun to call the Forest of the God. The forest was huge. The trees were so massive and dense, but it still felt natural. The sunlight hardly filtered through, providing just adequate light. The shorter of the two took off his hat. Come out, Asuma-san, Kurenai-san. I can sense you hiding. The larger man too took off his hat. It seems you are hated in this village, Itachi-san. The two jounin appeared behind the Akatsuki. Uchiha Itachi. You certainly have a lot of gall, coming back to the scene of the crime. Why are you here? Uchiha Itachi and his partner turned, revealing their features. His partner was pale blue-skinned, spiked hair and looking like a shark. I have no wish to fight you two. Why we are here, is our business. Just know that we are here on orders. Orders, well, be that as it may, you are both wanted shinobi of the highest priority. S-class missing nin. You won't leave here alive, Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. Said Asuma grimly. Oh, you know me too, I'm honored. Shall I kill them, Itachi-san? Itachi considered, and replied. Be quick about it, Kisame. We have our orders. Sakura walked towards that forest Naruto had created at a brisk walk. She had forgotten to give the Ahage to be given to Kakashi-sensei. She had heard Kurenai-sensei saying they were coming to visit the forest for the first time. That forest was becoming a kind of shrine for the Konoha shinobi, only after a day. She passed through the gates of Konoha, greeting Izumo briefly, and ran for the forest of God. Her mother would be irritated if she were late. She entered the forest through a convenient path that Naruto had created before leaving. What? What were those sounds? It was Kage clashing. She rushed in that direction when she heard her sensei's voice. Doton, Doryuahaki. She saw Kakashi, Asuma, and Kurenai all facing two men in black robes, with red clouds on them. Sasuke-kun. No, it was not him. It looked like an older version of him. Then it had to be Uchiha Itachi. And the other blue man fit Naruto's description of the shinobi he had fought at Wave, Hoshigaki Kisame. Sensei. Kakashi turned hastily at the sound of Sakura's voice. This was no place for a genin. Why was she here? Sakura, what are you doing here? Leave, now. Kurenai yelled. Sakura seemed frozen, unable to take her eyes off Itachi's face. Kakashi cursed. Of all the times for Sakura's obsession with anything Sasuke to get in the way. Itachi appeared in front of Sakura, looking deep into her eyes. The pink-haired girl just fell in a heap. We are taking the girl, Kisame. Itachi appeared next to Kisame, Sakura slung over his shoulders. Kakashi was absolutely angered. Sakura had nothing to do with this. Unless, oh no, Naruto. They were aiming for Naruto. Itachi, leave Sakura, and go. Or else. Itachi paused, looking at Kakashi. Asuma and Kurenai were exhausted from their battle, only the copy ninja was fit to fight. Do not make threats you cannot back, Kakashi-san, this is necessary. I will not hold back if you continue. Kakashi did not answer, and unveiled his Sharingan. Oh ho, a Sharingan. Itachi-san, we have to deal with him here and now. The girl will not be secure in a fight, said Kisame fearfully. Itachi nodded infinitesimally. He turned his stoic face upon Kakashi, and his Sharingan morphed into a pinwheel making the jounin gasp. Mangekyo Sharingan. Your eye cannot match mine, Kakashi-san. I am the true heir of the Sharingan, they called me the most powerful Uchiha since Madara. I will show you, my visual prowess. Kisame was grinning. Don't look into his eyes. Said Kakashi sharply. Asuma and Kurenai averted their faces. True, Sharingan can resist my Mangekyo a little, but you are no Uchiha, Kakashi-san, Tsukuyomi. Kakashi was transported into a bleak world with a red moon and clouds moving rapidly, and he was lashed to a cross. Itachi stood in front of him with a bared katana. This is the world of Tsukuyomi, Kakashi-san. The most powerful genjutsu, I can bend space and time to my will here. You will feel pain for 3 days. Kakashi felt pure pain rage through him, and he cried out. 72 hours 59 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Kakashi screamed out again and again, being stabbed by multiple katana on all sides. Faintly, he remembered a conversation he had with Naruto this morning. Kakashi, do you know you have the Mangekyo Sharingan? I knew you would sense it, having fought so many Uchiha. No, Naruto, it is not that. I got it after watching my teammate die, said Kakashi. Naruto nodded sadly. I am so sorry, Kakashi. But remember, that eye you possess has great power. I do not presume to advise you, but in my experience, a weapon not used is a weapon wasted. I know you risk blindness with its excessive use, but do use it very occasionally. You must be familiar with it in case a dire situation arises. Kakashi shook his head. It is not that I do not want to use it, Naruto. It is simply that after one use, I tend to fall in exhaustion. I am no Uchiha, that, and no opponent I have met warrants the use of that eye. Naruto looked sharply at him. Uchiha Itachi possesses the Mangekyo as well, and if you ever meet him, remember, you can match one Mangekyo with only another Mangekyo, unless you are so strong that Jujutsu becomes irrelevant. Do not hesitate to use it in such situations. Kakashi considered deeply, and then nodded. Thank you for the warning, Naruto. I will be sure to keep that in mind. Naruto nodded and shot off. Kurenai and Asuma watched as Kakashi stared into Itachi's eyes, and began to slump. Suddenly Itachi slumped as well, Sakura nearly slipping off with the motion. Then he straightened up with great effort, staring at Kakashi with unbridled surprise. Kakashi asked in a hoarse voice, Your organization, it is called Akatsuki, is it not? You plan to take Naruto and all the other Jinchuriki. Itachi looked tired as well, but a lot more surprised than tired. Kisame was staring at Kakashi with wide eyes. You must not be allowed to live if you have Mangekyo Sharingan and have this much knowledge, Kakashi-san. Itachi laid Sakura on the water gently, and stared at Kakashi with his eyes, the pinwheel formation not fading. Kakashi too stared back with his own single Mangekyo, preparing for the battle he feared he could not win. Itachi's left eye bled. Amaterasu. Kamui. A torrent of black fire hotter than the flames of the sun materialized in front of Kakashi instantly, only to be swallowed up by what seemed a spiraling distortion of space-time. The rest of the ninja stared amazed at the sheer power of the techniques used. Kakashi fell onto the water unconscious, and at the same time Itachi and Kisame flew back as if kicked. Might Guy, the noble blue beast of Konoha, stood in front of the Konoha Jounin, holding Sakura. Kurenai, take Kakashi and Sakura-san back to Konoha. Asuma and I will fight them until Umbu arrives. Let's leave, Kisame. We did not come here to start a fight, let's go. The two Akatsuki disappeared, the Konoha Jounin heaving a sigh of relief. Kakashi needs immediate medical attention, as does Sakura. Let's go. Orochimaru stared at the town. So unassuming it was, so sleepy. Is this the place, Kabuto? Is this where my old teammate now wastes away? Kabuto nodded. Yes, Orochimaru-sama. Our spies have confirmed it. This is where Tsunade-sama now resides with her apprentice. Orochimaru licked his lips with his creepily long tongue. It's time for me to reunite with my old teammate, Kabuto. Let's see if Tsunade is as helpful as she was in the old days. Kabuto smirked. Chapter 9. Jiraiya and Naruto walked alone, leaving Sasuke in the clearing they had adopted for a training ground. Sasuke was really giving his all to the new fire technique Jiraiya had taught him. He still has to teach me the Grand Fireball, thought Naruto. Sasuke had learned Shunshin from him, and had progressed rapidly with that technique. Naruto did not really need the fire technique, but he thought it would be prudent to have at least one fire technique in his arsenal. Do you want to learn a technique of the Yondaime, Naruto? Naruto turned fast to him, excitement on his face. You mean the Hiraishin no Jutsu? Jiraiya laughed. No, not that one. I do know the theory behind it, but the seals are customized so well that it can be used only by those with Minato's blood in them. It is a very powerful technique. Naruto looked a bit disappointed. Any theory behind the working of the technique would be of little use, until he had the exact seal array and understood it to the fullest extent. He really doubted if Minato had left the seal array scroll lying around. He had to speak to his mother. "No, Naruto. I will show you the Raise-Non. It is an A-rank technique that was deadly when used in conjunction with Hashirama. The terror your father inspired with this is legendary." Naruto was really excited. A new technique. His Mokuton, though it felt extremely natural and peaceful, was very familiar to him. Second nature. He had not had the joy of learning a new technique as Hashirama for a long time now. "Show me, Ero-sennin." Jiraiya adopted a deadpan look, holding out his hand. "Money." A tick mark appeared on Naruto's face. Really, he had to pay to learn his own father's technique. He stared at Jiraiya with a cold look. "Mokuton." Jiraiya waved his hands fast. Okay, no need to get excited. Watch carefully, Naruto, with both eyes and sense." Naruto nodded, satisfied. Pure chakra began rotating in Jiraiya's hand, contained into a sphere. The chakra seemed to be chaotic, thought Naruto. He concentrated hard, both upon the technique and Jiraiya funneling his chakra to make the technique work. Turbulence. Turbulence. That was the essence of his father's technique. The powerful chakra being moved in chaotic rotations, and being contained into a sphere. That's it. Jiraiya stopped his technique, looking expectantly at Naruto. The blue ball of chakra winked out of existence. "Silence barrier, Ero-sennin." Jiraiya nodded. Naruto looked at Jiraiya with wonder in his eyes, once they were secure. "That is a beautiful technique, my father was indeed a genius." Jiraiya looked closely at Naruto. "You look like you are familiar with the Raise-Non. I have seen something very similar to it, but on an unimaginably larger scale. To mimic that technique." "What technique, Naruto?" Naruto looked at Jiraiya sharply. "Baiju-Utama. The ultimate attack of the Baiju, causing massive destruction. The Nine Tails could even penetrate my defense, even when I used the Goju Urashouman." Jiraiya looked fascinated. Here was someone relating legend, someone who was legend himself. "Was it during your fight with Uchiha Madara?" Now Naruto looked sad, thinking about his long-gone friend. He had tried so hard to save him, Madara had been consumed with hatred. He wouldn't listen. "Yes, Madara. We used to be so strong, the two of us. No village dared to attack Konoha with the two of us standing to defend it. Uchiha Madara and Senju Hashirama, closer than brothers, stronger than the entire village combined." Naruto shook his head, coming out of his reminiscences. That was a bygone era, and he would leave the past where it belonged. "Anyway, I had that Baiju-Utama fired against me enough times to understand its workings. But the kind of control required to mimic it must be earned through practice only, that much I can see. My perfect control might help me learn it faster than others, but still it will take time," Naruto said. Jiraiya nodded. "True. Raise-Non takes shape manipulation to the highest possible level, Naruto. Even for someone with control like yours, it will take training. There are actually 3 steps to mastering this jutsu. The first step is..." "Damn it!" swore Kakashi. Guy looked at his rival as if he had declared he was Orochimaru's loyal subordinate. Kakashi never swore that loud. "What is wrong, my eternal rival?" Kakashi looked at him, his visible eye blazing with anger. "Sakura has left the hospital. I think Itachi showed her something disturbing in his genjutsu. Something to do with Sasuke, no doubt. She left a note telling she was going to warn him. We need to pursue her." Guy looked at him warningly. "We have to notify the council before leaving the village in the next few months. Those are the rules for elite jounin." "Damn!" swore Kakashi again, and disappeared. He had to get these irritating formalities over with. If Sakura came to face Itachi again, she would die. He felt only little exhaustion, as he had thrown off the worst of the Tsukuyomi with his own eye. He had to save his students. The more Naruto got acquainted with Jiraiya and his eccentricities, the more he felt that his godfather was a man of his word. He was a super pervert. The first time he had accused Jiraiya of being a pervert, the man had with wide eyes and weirdly wiggling fingers proclaimed himself the super pervert. Naruto had scoffed, dismissing his boastful claim. The man had discussed with him the 3 vices a shinobi could fall into: women, alcohol, and money. That hypocrite. He was currently indulging all 3 of those so-called vices, leaving him to practice the raise-non. The first step was popping a water balloon. Since he had his epiphany about the Raisengans working, he had tried to pop the balloon. He was close, and he knew it. He leisurely walked down the street, stowing away his water balloon. Control exercises like this one required finesse and calm, and could not be done with a frustrated mind. Anyway, he had to talk to Sasuke. The Uchiha had really been killing himself with that self-punishment he called training. Naruto appeared in front of their hotel, walked up leisurely to their room and pushed open the door. Sasuke was staring at open space with his Sharingan activated, presumably training his Jujutsu. Training the Sharingan, huh? Sasuke turned to look at him. Yeah. I need to use the Sharingan well with Shunshin. I have the eyes to keep up with my speed, and I will make use of it. What do you think? Naruto nodded. An excellent idea, Sasuke. A true user of the Sharingan and the Shunshin simultaneously will be fearsome. Just like Uchiha Shisui. I would recommend that you learn Kenjutsu as well. Sasuke looked thoughtful. Yes. That would go very well indeed. Kenjutsu was an extremely useful and sophisticated art. In fact, the finesse required for Kenjutsu would be higher than that needed for Taijutsu. He already had his sword, and he had Kushina-san to teach him. He had Naruto to spar with. Sasuke felt rather happy. His training was in the right direction. His momentary elation, however, was quelled by a shrill voice. A voice that was too familiar. Sasuke-kun. Naruto looked at the door in alarm, sensing Sakura's extreme agitation. Something had happened. Appearing in front of the door, he opened it swiftly to reveal a disheveled Sakura who promptly threw herself upon Sasuke, making sure he was alright. Are you alright, Sasuke-kun? Are you hurt? Sasuke gently pried Sakura's invasive hands off his body. Calm down, Sakura. What happened? Tell me, slowly. Naruto and Sasuke watched their teammate in apprehension as she took a few deep breaths to steady herself. Sasuke-kun, it is your brother. Sasuke looked on high alert. His face showed no anger, only extreme determination. Naruto stared into Sakura's eyes. He was in Konoha, wasn't he? Did he attack? Sakura gulped, and nodded. Tell us. Tell us everything, now. Sasuke ordered. It was in the forest of the god. I saw Kakashi-sensei, Asuma-sensei, and Kurani-sensei fighting Kisame and Itachi. Sakura launched into her story. Naruto ran full pelt through the town, casting around for his errant godfather. The man needed to be informed of this immediately as he had the means to get the news to his spy network discreetly. There, a very large chakra. Somewhere near the outskirts. It feels like arrow senins. He disappeared with a series of Shunshin, coming closer and closer to Jiraiya's position. There he was. Sitting beneath a tree, giggling like an idiot doing his so-called research. Hey, arrow senin. Listen. Itachi and Kisame targeted Konoha again, and tried to capture Sakura dash. Where is she? Interrupted Jiraiya. Right here. She came to warn us, arrow senin. Itachi and Kisame might target her at any time. Can you install some security seals in our rooms? Jiraiya nodded and disappeared. Naruto sighed and sat down in Jiraiya's spot. The man certainly knew how to choose his resting places. Trees were the best. Sasuke heard a knock on the door to his room. Not good. Jiraiya never knocked, preferring to come through the window. Activating his Sharingan, he went to the door and opened it. And stared up into another pair of Sharingan. His heart began to beat faster as he stared at the face of his traitorous brother, Itachi. Hello, Sasuke. I see you have a fully mature Sharingan. And Sakura-san. I am sorry, but I will have to kill you too. Sakura gasped, but said bravely. Do you think you can hold out against Jiraiya-sama or are both here? Itachi looked amused as he disappeared only to appear behind Sakura and kick her. But he kicked only empty air. Sasuke was on the opposite side of the room with Sakura held securely in his arms. Sakura looked dazed by the speed as Sasuke set her down. Itachi, you should never have come here. I have seen Naruto destroy an army. I know of Jiraiya's reputation. Not even you can defeat them, Sasuke said. He had long since taken Naruto's advice and had calmed himself during a fight. No longer did he simply fire up at the mention of Itachi's name. As Naruto had said, that was weakness. Anger was a weakness. Itachi looked at his brother. I can match either of them, if I have to. But as you say, not both at once. But I do know that you will never beat me, Sasuke. You lack hatred. Sasuke snorted. I have changed, brother. You won't dictate my actions anymore. He held out his hand and began charging it up with lightning chakra. Kakashi-san's Reikari. Sasuke's hand was now covered in lightning, errant arcs of it dancing around the room. Suddenly he disappeared and reappeared almost instantly, the lightning hand buried in Itachi's gut. Itachi smirked down at him. Foolish little brother. My eyes will always be stronger than yours. Sasuke gasped as the world rippled in his perception, and he saw his hand buried, not in Itachi's gut. To his horror, it was buried in Sakura's. His eyes widened as he saw the light of life leaving his teammate's eyes. Sakura gasped out with her last breath. Sasuke-kun. Sasuke could not comprehend what was happening. He had been fooled by Itachi into stabbing Sakura. He could not bear seeing Sakura gurgling blood. Itachi stood behind him. Weak, and blind. Sasuke felt utter grief exploding in his heart, as he lost someone he considered a precious person. Itachi was taking away one more. That traitor. Sakura slumped as Sasuke removed his hand, horrified. He watched as Sakura fell down to the earth. His Sharingan would make sure that this scene would forever be imprinted in his mind. Slowly he turned into Itachi, unable to look at Sakura. His eyes were burning, and shed tears incessantly. I will never forgive this. Itachi still looked at him stoically. His eyes morphed into his Mangekyo. Oh, and what will you do, little brother? Your eyes are no match for mine, I have shown you already. You are weak. The tears falling from Sasuke's eyes were no longer normal. The young Uchiha's face was twisted with mad rage and loss, as he cried tears of blood. His three-tomo Sharingan changed into his Mangekyo Sharingan, and a sinister chakra exploded from him. He opened his eyes and stared at Itachi. His eyes were no longer normal, but consisting of three ellipses intersecting at the center. Naruto got up fast as he felt Sakura's wound, and the sinister chakra of Sasuke. He knew it too well. Sasuke had awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan. Before he could disappear, he felt someone appear behind him. A very huge chakra, and it felt different and familiar at the same time. My name is Pain, Kyuabijin Hiraki. Save yourself the fight and come with me peacefully. Naruto turned and saw something that surprised him to no end. It was a spiky orange-haired man, in Akatsuki robes. But his eyes. A wielder of the legendary Rinnegan. I have no time to fight you, Akatsuki. I am sure you have heard of my prowess. Let me leave peacefully, or else. Naruto had no time for the banter. His teammate was dying. He wouldn't dare underestimate the Rinnegan, though. Mokyuton, Jukai Kouden. Thousands of trees were born from the earth in front of him and rushed towards his opponent, who looked mildly surprised. Naruto exerted even more, and trees were born in all directions and surrounded the lone Akatsuki, hurtling at him rapidly. Pain looked at the trees rushing at him from all directions. This child was very, very strong. The trees were branching out and multiplying, becoming uncountable by the second. It seemed as if Pain would be killed any second by Naruto's jutsu. Naruto could sense a massive buildup of chakra from his opponent. Shinra Tensei. Naruto shielded himself with a wood wall as his attacking forest was blown into pieces, wood splinters flying everywhere. The air was thick with them. A terrifying jutsu. Obviously, this was a technique that manipulated gravity itself. It was truly an almighty push. You cannot beat God, Uzumaki Naruto. You can never stand up to these eyes. Personally, Naruto disagreed. He walked up to stand opposite Pain. The Akatsuki shinobi looked at him arrogantly, and Naruto could not help but respect him. This man could definitely be a hard ninja to fight. But he had no doubt that he would prevail. You may wield the Rinnegan, Akatsuki, but you are no Rikoda Sennin. You have no understanding of the true power of those eyes. An upstart, that is what you are. A child playing with things he has no comprehension of. He watched as the spiky orange-haired man lost his arrogance, to be replaced by anger. The anger gradually gave way to his own amusement. I could say the same to you, child. You may have the Mokuton, but you are no Hashirama. Naruto smirked. If only he knew. It was easy enough to deal with that gravity technique once he had faced it. He may have others, though. An attractive technique would complement a repulsive one, the duality of chakra demanded it. He held out the bird seal. Mokuton, 10 no Tsurugai. 100 long pointed stakes of wood with sharp edges rushed towards Pain from all directions again, in a perfect circle. Pains flung out his hands again. Shinra Tensei. The massive force exploded in all directions, ripping up the ground. Naruto smirked. He would find this one interesting. The hundreds of stakes rushing at Pain bent back, curling almost to the ground, but they did not break. Pain's eyes widened as he saw what was happening. The stakes all snapped back to cut the Rinnegan wielder. Pain, who had not counted on the elasticity of the stakes, pointed both hands at the ground. Bansho Tenin. The earth below Pain was pulled up in a massive columnar explosion of rubble, intercepting each and every one of the stakes. Pain walked out from the rubble he had used to defend himself. Too bad he had used his gravity manipulation to bind his defense together, thought Naruto. That was clever. You are strong, but I repeat. These eyes cannot be defeated. Naruto raised his hands in a ram seal, looking around the ripped-up clearing. Their location was isolated enough for him to let loose a bit without endangering the town. Pain charged at him, engaging in a match of taijutsu. Naruto found that he was fighting an extremely resilient opponent. His powerful strikes were having little effect on the man. Naruto took a hard punch to his stomach, knocking the breath out of him. It seemed that the Rinnegan gave some gifts to its wielder. He could not lay a hand on Pain, no matter how unpredictable he made his strikes. Pain was somehow able to counter each and every one of his hits, and he was using gravity manipulation to counter his raw strength. Naruto shone silver for a moment, and slammed his hands down on the ground. A shockwave similar to the one he had sent at Orochimaru rushed towards Pain, blasting the ground beneath it to bits. Shinra Tensei. This time, the force that blasted outwards from Pain easily overcame his own shockwave and flung him back painfully, striking him hard, breaking bones. Naruto landed a few hundred paces away, falling hard. He could feel his ribs broken, his wrist damaged. If he had a normal body, he would have gone down instantly with multiple broken bones. If he had Hashirama's body fully developed, he could have shaken off that blast easily. But now, he took minor injuries. He concentrated healing chakra to the areas and they healed instantly. His eyes snapped up to Pain in utter resolve. He slammed his palms together and shouted his technique. 6 huge dragons of wood rose out of the earth, floating up in the air magnificently. Naruto stood up on one of them, directing his creations. Naruto flared his chakra, shining bright silver. The dragons began to shine silver as well as they flew in the sky, circling around Pain's location. Pain looked at the sky with wonder, seeing it filled with dragons that shone with the Kyuubigen hierarchy's chakra. He flung out his hands, gathering his chakra for this technique. It would be big. Naruto pumped his chakra through his dragons, as the wood they were made of were so conducive to chakra that it was almost as if they were an extension of him. He could feel Pain gathering his chakra as well, presumably to unleash that huge gravitational push. The dragons floating high in the air opened their mouths, revealing a shining silver light within their mouths. Heavenly pillars of light. A technique he had not used for a long time. It was as stronger than even Baijuodama if he wanted it to be, but he wanted to keep the terrain surrounding them relatively undamaged. He used Mokuton to conduct, amplify, and shape his chakra into pure energy. The dragons dived from every direction towards Pain in a circle, causing the Akatsuki shinobi to gather even more chakra. The air was saturated with the sheer amount of power they were exuding. Mokyuton, Hikari no Ten no Hashira, intoned Naruto. 6 huge columns of burning silver light descended from the mouths of the diving dragons, flashing towards Pain in a heartbeat. The air was impossibly bright, filled with Naruto's technique. Shinra Tensei. Another explosion rippled out of Pain, this one larger than ever. The columns of light were not dispelled, only deflected. The 6 columns of light collided with the ground chaotically, thrown out of course by Pain's jutsu. The combined explosion, also joined by Pain's gravity manipulation, caused a huge explosion, multiple shockwaves emanating from it. Naruto's sight went white as he shielded himself with a wooden sphere, and let the other 5 dragons dissipate. This fight could not continue at such a level. The village would be destroyed. Already he could feel the massive shockwaves generated buffet the village, but thankfully only at the edge. He watched from high up in the air, standing upon his dragon, high enough in the air to escape that explosion. He could still feel Pain's chakra down there. The cloud of dust parted slowly to reveal the ground. A crater. A crater that spread to at least a kilometer, and went around half a kilometer deep. He could sense the alarm of the villagers, they were frantic. The crater had not encompassed the village, thank Kami. But he assumed that the shockwaves had caused a momentary storm in there. His dragon dived, landing upon the ground. He jumped down to confront Pain, his wood dragon following faithfully behind him. Do you really want to attract so much attention to yourself, Pain? Destroying this village in our fight would cause the villages to focus upon Akatsuki. Do you want that? Pain looked at him impassively. That is of no import. I want you captured, and I will take out anything in my way to see that happen. Perhaps you should stop fighting. Naruto stared back calmly, as well sure that Pain knew his answer. The two faced each other inside the crater they had created. The ground started rumbling, the rubble breaking into even finer pieces everywhere as they readied themselves for another bout of combat. The air behind Pain suddenly distorted spirally, causing a man in Akatsuki robes and an orange mask to materialize. Toby is here. Toby is a good boy. He will take Leader Sama back to the hideout. The man yelled out in a childish voice. Naruto stared at him. Pain was looking at him with annoyance on his face. But Naruto could sense the Mangekyo Sharingan in the weird orange masked man, and a very strong chakra. Traces of his own chakra. He was irritated. Why did everyone have his chakra these days? Toby, I need to finish this. Stay out of it. But Toby shouted his denial childishly, and gripped Pain's shoulder, causing them both to disappear in a swirling vortex of space-time. Naruto sighed. That was one fight he did not want to do in a populated area. He had no intention of becoming responsible for mass slaughter due to collateral damage of all things. Sasuke and Sakura seemed safe. Jiraiya's chakra had also stopped fluctuating, indicating that his fight was over as well. He could sense the pervert moving towards his teammates. He could sense a chakra he had recognized before. Was it him who had assaulted Sasuke? No matter, he would find out the truth today. We have to stop meeting like this, Itachi. Sure enough, the Uchiha appeared in front of him, Mangekyo Sharingan blazing. Tsukuyomi. Naruto suddenly found himself in an empty world where clouds raced against a blood-red sky. Itachi appeared in front of him. Naruto tested the nature of the genjutsu by sending out momentary pulses of his own chakra. Strong. Very strong, indeed. To actually put someone who was a sensor type, a jinhuriki, and him in a genjutsu of this strength was exceptional. He gathered his chakra and sent it out in a huge blast. His eyes widened when the world did not even waver. Something stronger was needed. I need to talk to you, Naruto-kun. I cannot do so if you keep irritating me with those blasts of chakra. Naruto studied Itachi. You know this cannot hold me. I do. But I wish to talk to you, and this is the safest way. I control space and time in this perception. What did you do with Sasuke? The world shifted into his hotel room, where he saw Sasuke facing down Itachi, Mangekyo blazing. I will never forgive this, Itachi. The two brothers faced each other, their accursed eyes meeting. Amaterasu! They shouted in unison. In the center of the corridor materialized a large torrent of black fire. The entire place was melting away with the sheer heat, both brothers trying to dominate and control the heavenly flames. Sasuke was screaming, unused to the Mangekyo, while Itachi grimly pressed on. The corridor had caught fire entirely, actually melting into some slag and still not extinguishing. A shockwave suddenly disturbed the building, causing Sasuke to lose control of the flames. The young Uchiha had given out from his first overuse of Mangekyo. Itachi turned with surprised eyes towards Naruto's and Pain's fight, and disappeared. Naruto observed Itachi quietly as the world turned back to its original state. What happened to Sakura? Itachi sighed. I put all my strength into a genjutsu of 2 layers. One to make Sasuke stab Sakura-san, and the other to make him believe that the wound was deep. It is not easy to overpower Sharingan, but I can do it. Naruto nodded. From your emotions, and your actions, I can only conclude that your aims do not lie with Akatsuki. Tell me, what happened in the Uchiha massacre? Hiruzen was going to tell me, but he was killed. Will you tell me? Itachi looked at him sharply. Yes, I know all about that. You, Naruto-kun, are an enigma. You have the pure raw strength of Hashirama, you have his potent chakra, and you use his exact same techniques. I have my suspicions about you, but I would like you to tell me in exchange for the truth about the Uchiha massacre. Naruto considered. If Itachi proved to be trustworthy after all this, then he most definitely would deserve to know his secret. You go first, Itachi. Show me what happened that night. Itachi nodded and the world began to change and mirror the events of the massacre, and Itachi's perspective. A young Itachi learning and perceiving the truths of the village and its ancient heritage. A young Itachi learning of the balance of power in the elemental nations. A slightly older Itachi becoming Umbu, after making Chunin and Jounin at unprecedented ages. Playing with an adorable little Sasuke. The Uchiha clan and the council recruiting him to spy on each other. Itachi's miserable life as a double agent. The Uchiha clan planning a coup and making Itachi a central part of it. Itachi informing the council, who decided the elimination of the entire clan was wise. Itachi taking the job on, to spare chaos in the village. Him making contact with the man who claimed to be Uchiha Madara. The two of them slaughtering the clan. Mikoto and Fugaku Uchiha accepting death in their son's presence, telling him he was too gentle. Itachi torturing Sasuke to make him learn hate, his heart breaking into a million pieces the entire time. Becoming a missing nin and taking it all upon his shoulders. Joining Akatsuki and protecting Konoha always from the shadows. The vision slowly faded away, leaving Naruto to face Itachi within the original genjutsu. Naruto looked at Itachi with absolute admiration and respect, mixed with sadness. What a man! What greatness and nobility! He bowed deeply to Itachi. You are great, Itachi. So great that even my sacrifices dwarf in comparison to yours. You deserve to know my secret. Listen carefully, and know your answer. Use that Mangekyo of yours to stare at my mind's reflection. Naruto used the connection Itachi had allowed between them to show him the truth of his own identity and watched as Itachi's face began to transform from stoic to true wonder and joy. He ended the visions at the point when Hiruzen was convinced beyond belief that he was Hashirama. A smile lit up Itachi's face, his eyes burning with happiness and amazement. Amazing, to have you back as Uzumaki Naruto, Hashirama-sama. With you protecting the village. Don't get too comfortable, Itachi. I may be strong, and I will surpass even my old strength. Itachi could not help but gasp at this. But there is more to the Akatsuki than just what has been revealed. The one who called himself Uchiha Madara in your past was an impostor. Itachi's face grew even more surprised, but Naruto continued urgently. I need to tell you what I think. I think that the impostor is involved with Akatsuki for a reason. Pain has the Rinnegan, as you well know. He has no mastery over those eyes, or the battle would have been much tougher. Do not let your guard down because I am back, Itachi. Konoha needs you now more than ever. Itachi nodded, still looking uncharacteristically happy. But my burdens are lessened, Hashirama-sama. With you watching over Sasuke, My plans for him are unnecessary. I will not turn him into the darkness anymore and orchestrate my own death. I can protect Konoha better if I am alive, now. Naruto nodded. I have no doubt that you have read the tablet in the Nakano shrine. Itachi nodded. That is how I got the secrets of the Mangekyo. Naruto continued. Then you know of the history between Senju and Uchiha. You must have an idea of the Rinnegan's power. If Pain attacks again with all his strength, I will be the only one standing between him and Konoha's destruction. There is much more to this. What do you mean when you say, Pain's full strength, Hashirama-sama? Listen carefully, Itachi. I could sense that Pain was nothing more than a puppet, and that he was being controlled by chakra transmission from another location. I could sense 5 other such puppets and I assume they each wield the 6 paths. Itachi looked very alarmed now, if the true Pain attacks with all 6 paths unified. Yes. Only I can defeat such a person, as Konoha stands now. There must be a reason he is using the splitting of paths. You must find out, Itachi. I will be concentrating on getting back to my full strength, so I can defend Konoha when Akatsuki makes their move. I will find out, Hashirama-sama. And one last thing. You are the only one who can decipher more of the Rinnegan's secrets. You know what you must do. Will you consider it? Itachi nodded slowly. I will. Will you tell Sasuke of your identity? He is a child, Itachi. A troubled one, but a child nevertheless. I will burden him with such knowledge only when he is ready. I want him to be my true friend, not my follower. On that note, I would ask you to drop the honorifics as well. Call me Hashirama, here. All right, Hashirama. I think we have spoken as much as necessary. I can feel Jiraiya-sama approaching. The time will come when the nations will rise up against Akatsuki, Itachi. Please keep Konoha safe until such a time. Itachi nodded and the illusion broke, leaving Naruto facing Itachi in the devastated crater. You are a greater shinobi than me, Itachi. You have my word that your sacrifice will not be forgotten by Konoha. And I will take care of Sasuke, don't worry about him. Concentrate on Akatsuki, and we will meet when you see fit. A smile broke through Itachi's face, before he disappeared. Naruto turned around, and spoke. What happened, Ero-sennin? The white-haired sage appeared in the crater, whistling at the scale of the damage. Who did you fight, Kage? I fought Kisame to a stalemate, and still did not cause this much damage. Naruto sighed. I will tell you everything later. But first, are Sasuke and Sakura safe? They are. Kakashi and Guy followed Sakura here and got them out of that burning hotel. They are on the way back to Konoha. Those flames were Amaterasu, weren't they? I had to seal them up with my strongest fire suppressor. We can talk in a more secure environment, Ero-sennin. Too many secrets. Jiraiya nodded, and the duo disappeared with a shunshin. That's it for part 4. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.